Okay, let's have a look. Are we live? Hello, everybody. Can you hear me? They might be able to hear you twice, in fact.
Well, I haven't said anything yet.
Chorus effect, because I've got you on 2 audio channels, because you're that good.
Yes, there was a chorus effect.
Nice. But I spotted it before it was an actual problem.
Wait. There's still a chorus effect. You haven't fixed it.
Yeah, it's definitely turned off.
I'm listening to the stream.
Oh dear. Perhaps if I mute that, that's just desktop audio. So, am I being chorused? How can I be being chorused?
I don't know.
Help! Send help! Welcome. No, I should not be being chorused. That's not an effect I exist on.
Okay, it's something happened on my side.
Have you got
I think Linux is.
Have you got
no, but I think Linux is being bad.
Yes, it's not me.
Yay! Okay. Hello, everybody.
And good afternoon, evening, morning, wherever you are. Oh, how are you all doing? I've had a fantastic weekend and a fantastic day today. I've been playing lots. I got distracted earlier. I will be showing you something that's not related to anything that we've been doing recently. Someone asked me about a canopy. Hello, Melicon. Hello, everybody. Excellent that you can hear us fine. Yes, I was playing around with... Currently picking... Yes. That would be perfect. So, yeah, I was playing around with a canopy earlier on, as in like a cockpit, and then another mag racer appeared. So I just want to show how very simple geometry can work into quite an organic shape. I was quite surprised how it worked out.
And I managed to get a loading bar in and also fix the bug that was preventing NPCs from spawning, although I've introduced another bug that I'll fix in the morning, where they sometimes attack and they sometimes don't. But I know why that's there. I just haven't got around to it yet. Perfect. And then I showed Mikey some of what's going on with Godot 4 at the minute, which is very close to alpha. Please note, alpha is not a stable release. That doesn't mean that the course is getting recorded next week. Because on my version, it crashes every couple of minutes. Like, it's still not quite there. There's plenty of bugs.
Oh, yes. And the thing that we're going to show you in a few moments, which I think we should, because that's the screenshot we lured you all here with. But yeah, so it's been crashing multiple times, hasn't it? Yeah. So it's there. We can use it, but it's frustrating to use at the moment until obviously it's
also things like materials don't cache immediately. Like we had to close the thing down, open it, and then.
Oh yeah, the torch. So the torch materials, they were all bright white, but one of them.
The same thing's happening with albedos on particles, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you want to show that off, we can show that off. We have lots of things we can do. And you've also been playing a lot of Diablo 3.
Yes, I want to talk about that because obviously it is an RPG, so it's hot on topic, but it's also interesting. So I picked up... Yeah, we'll come to that later. Let's show them the video.
Okay. Because we were just playing in Godot 4.
So this is... What's the scene that we're seeing here? This is
our existing dungeon assets. I've just put some meshes together and a couple of torches. A directional light and a physics sky, which is a new thing for Godot 4. The directional light rotates, which changes how the sky behaves. There is actually a star texture on there, but it's probably a bit too faint right now.
I can see it roughly. If I click that again, hello.
And it comes. That's a good question from Governor.
So there should be at least 4 lectures there. The rest are in editing.
Have you published the lectures, not the course, but the lectures?
Yes, I have published the lectures.
Okay, we'll look into that, Governor, because no, that's not correct. You should actually have videos in there.
So Frank actually asks a really good question about what alpha actually means. Now, it can mean different things to different studios, but it basically means buggy, and no, basic features tend to come in and get locked in at the beta stage in general.
Depending. I mean, they'll stop putting features in when they put in a code freeze.
Yeah.
And that point is polish. I can actually open that scene in Godot 4 and let them see what we've got.
Yeah, that'll be awesome. Let me share
I'll need to share my screen, won't I? Otherwise, it's
Me
pointless.
too.
Sharing my screen. There's my very professional desktop.
Bear with me while I switch over. You'd have
Okay, I
become.
have an itchy
Oh, look
nose.
how big your hand's gotten. Right, let's.
Boom, boom, boom. Where's my Godot 4? There it is. Boop. Okay, so opening. Here we go. Great. So what we have here, let me just come out of the camera preview, is just directional light right here. And if I rotate that, you see it actually starts doing the sky. Now, right now, we've got a lot of very foggy effects on to really show off what's happening. But you can see that it's actually calculating the color of the sky and the horizon based on where the sun is, which is part of that. I could
really
actually
awesome.
just take this out and then change this for a basic color. Nope, change this for a basic color. And then we have no sky.
Yeah.
Okay, so that is a much more dodgy thing. These are the same assets, the same torch in the same color. But if I open up the camera and put us in preview mode, that feels very different. There's a lot more
doesn't it?
control over things like the sharpness of shadows and the bleed through effect. There's some really cool stuff in the new lighting engine, including in directional and omni lights. In fact, I could show you real quick.
One thing that I really love with that is you can actually have areas of pure shadow. So you've got that corridor there that's boom.
Not a directional light, a spotlight. That's the second time I've done that.
I know.
La 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 la. I'm a professional. Spotlight. No, 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 no. There we go. Great. So we have a spotlight. I'm not needing to play this animation anymore. And it's just hovering there. Let's rotate you around. Great. There is my spotlight. And you can see with the new lighting effects and fog, we've got this lovely little subtle thing going on. One thing that we can see here, and this isn't currently working right, I have to enable shadow for this. Under light, we have projector. And what this is if we put in a texture here, in fact, under particles, I have some textures, don't I? There we go.
Yes.
Let's put in an abstract texture. It will now map this to that light. But we've noticed this isn't quite there yet. If I put in a circle, and I move you to here, and I make it nice and bright, we've noticed it's only mapping a small portion of this. Let's actually change you to an omni light.
So again, this is part of like alpha territory. You just have to deal with issues when they come up. I mean, obviously, this is the type of thing that we could report as well.
Right now, we've got this light source, and it's reading this texture, this smudged out circle, with a flat line. And if I rotate it, you can actually see where it's going. So something is not quite finished with the new lighting engine, but it's looking pretty fun. Like once that's done, we can start using gobo style effects. If you've done any theater lighting, a gobo is a metal sheet, a very thin metal sheet that you've punched a silhouette into, and you put it in front of a certain lamp, like a profile, and it'll project and put that silhouette onto the shape. So stained glass effects, for example. Much easier way of doing those kinds of things. Or light through leaves. Rather than calculating the light through the leaves, if you don't have trees in the scene, or you just want to fake it, you could just have a single light source that projects that down onto the character. So there's a lot of cool stuff you can do with that. Okay. We also have some...
Yeah, you continue. I'm just reading the chat. I can't read it on my screen because you're on it.
Okay. So moving this back to sky, and let's put you back to a new sky and a new fixed sky. Not physics, physical, different word. Where'd you go? New physical sky. Boop, 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 boop. And we'll take our directional light and we'll just rotate. Great. So a few other things we can do here that's really cool. This does sometimes crash, so be aware. There's a lot of fun things we can do with the SGFI set, including volumetric fog. Haven't quite got this working just how I like it yet, but I'm just exploring it. One thing I've noticed is that the directional light can actually light the directional fog. So you'll be very careful with volumetric. I don't think it's meant to be used in this kind of setting. It's supposed to be for an indoor, very misty feel. But the way it's calculating the light here just feels awesome. Like there's a very subtle God ray effect going on. Not actually a God ray, but it's very close to that kind of feel.
And I
There it
don't
is.
know the
See it?
system fully. Yes. As light passes through, you will get these light shards. There's probably a way of tightening that up to make them. Oh, there we go. Jan's just found it.
Oh no, I'm just moving the light.
Oh, okay. It's just coming through the portcullis. Brilliant. Very nice.
So I don't yet know like the impact on screen and all the rest of it. The new particles looking pretty fun too. But there's so much fun stuff in here, so I'm really enjoying playing with this. And the idea is to keep playing with it and playing with it and playing with it, so that when it gets to a state, we're ready to go. We're not surprised by any functionality, because a lot of things have moved and a lot of things are very different. Including, let's go over to our torch particles.
There's a lot more options now as well.
And a lot of the options are in a different place. So I have, here we go. I have my my physics material here, my process material here, and I have the draw pass here. But unlike previous versions, if I open the material here, that's not a new window, it's just further down the list. So I'm here and I'm thinking I need to go back to the process material, and I keep going back, and that just means go back up to the next level now that functions differently. But there's some fun things you can do here. One thing I have noticed, this current build is the cache doesn't always refresh. So if I bring in a quad and I do a new, new material for it. No. There it is. Sorry, I've just managed to confuse myself. Here we go.
Hey!
See, I told you, they've changed how it's laid out, and it's not automatic for me. So we have here a lovely thing that isn't showing, which is great. But billboard is now down here. And if I put billboard on, we should be seeing things, but I don't see them. And it's because it's not automatically, or not always, putting these particles in. But in theory, if I put you in, and I make sure I've got use the albedo, I should be seeing these things.
Yes, earlier on you had to shut down Godot and reopen it up, and then, oh, it's working now.
And right now I found, like, if I play with these settings a lot, then they might come back. It's not quite there yet. But some other very fun things. I'm just going to undo. Check this out. Particle attractor sphere.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Ooh.
So here is a sphere. And I'm just going to move you to here. I'm going to go to my flames. And I'm going to get out of the draw passes. I don't care about those. Into my particle material. Scroll down. And make sure this is enabled. Okay. And now, when I bring my particle attractor in, and I bring the strength up,
I can see it starting to go.
In fact, let's make it flat.
You just imagine the effects you could use with this.
Let's give it a bigger radius. Let's say 4-meter radius.
There we go. So you could have, like, when a doorway opens, you could instance one of these spheres in and actually have all of the particles kind of drift towards it, which I think would be out of scope.
Yep. I mean, there's all kinds of things you could do, like lightning.
Yeah.
You can now just put the attractor on the thing, and if it's in range, the spell will hit. I mean, you don't want to do a lot of other things, so you don't have the spell firing behind you, but there's some fun things you can do with this. I've only really just started playing with it. There's also a way that you can have a sub-emitter, so when the particle is fired, it can then emit a second particle, either at the end or during. We haven't got that working yet, and obviously there's no documentation yet, but I'm playing with it. There's all kinds of cool stuff. How about the collision stuff? You know what? I could go on about this for a while. Just playing with it is fun, so I'm enjoying myself immensely. I'm coming out of full screen, Mikey. This is your warning.
Am I supposed to? Yeah. Okay. Bear with me, guys, while I move things around. I should just use this as the layout and cover up the lower screen. Then it would just work, wouldn't it?
Might do.
But no, I went and made fancy stuff. So let me just move around. And then I just want to answer the question on. I need you in there, not me. There we go.
What's going on?
I don't know. It's all crazy over this side. There's two of me. Oh, that's brilliant. Right. Anyway, so Governor, yes. So the main top level, what Teachable call bundles on our site, whether it's the individual courses or the 3-pack, they are like placeholders that all of the courses get added to. So in the case of this, the LMMS Action RPG is
the
there.
bundle.
So and get this, I'm not going to make this as a promise, but it's something I'm excited by, and this will lead nicely into Diablo in a bit.
I don't know what he's going to say.
Me neither. It's all crazy here. It's all live. So yes, so that's a placeholder. So if there were more LMMS courses, they could actually fit under there for the RPG, and there may be things like the assets for that as well under there. So there's different courses that could go under there. One of the things that I'd like to add to it is not a Foley course, but a how to get into Foley, and it would actually be a free part, but it would also be bundled with that. So the reason why I'm mentioning this is after playing a couple of different RPGs over the last how many months, like year, and really nailing down different things. One of the things that really got me, I'm just turning and looking at Yang here, go, what's Mike doing?
I like how you've decided that now how you're going to do this. Rather than tell me I've got this idea for a course and me say we're not quite ready for it and shooting it down, you're just going to tell the student it's live, and then I'm the bad guy.
Well, this is what I'm saying. It's not a promise, but it's something that I really want to add, but not as a course, as an introduction into.
If you want to do Foley, you go for it. Man.
Oh yeah, I'm definitely going to do it. I want to break some stuff and smush cabbages or whatever it is.
I should point out. Foley's an amazing skill, but it's surprisingly difficult to learn.
Yeah.
And very difficult to teach. And most working Foley artists, and there are only very few in Hollywood, became that way by becoming apprentices. Like, we'll look into it. It's a really cool skill. But getting it into an actual course, we'll have to see how we do.
It'll be more like an introduction. How about trying these things? Tips and tricks to get you on
From what
your
I understand,
way
the biggest skill with Foley
full.
is figuring out the sounds you want and then breaking the sound into components and thinking, how can I make that component?
Yeah. And there's, because of my musical background and the fact that I've played with sound manipulation for quite a few years, I'm quite happy with like breaking out Audacity, laying down tracks, changing the speed of tracks, adding different effects, reversing parts of it. All of these things are part of the playfulness and experimentation. It's going to be that sort of focus rather than here's the exact way that you would do this and why. So it's more like a come join Mikey on this little adventure of his.
I have a Foley story from my theatre days. This is taught to me by my old sound design tutor.
Yeah.
There is one sound effect for nighttime that everyone seems to want in plays and movies, and it's crickets.
Yeah.
Even in the UK, we can only hear crickets for like a week every year.
If that.
Yeah. So, my sound designer, Reese, was working on a play, and the sound system went down during the show, which happens, you know. And the director still wanted the sound of crickets. So what happened was, everyone who wasn't on stage, everyone who wasn't effectively doing something on stage, like every stage manager who wasn't carrying something, every actor, every technician, was backstage with 2 coins, by a microphone, just doing this for an hour and a half. At least they would be, except 20 minutes in, one of them got the giggles. So for the next hour and 10 minutes, it's everyone standing by it doing this, going, trying desperately not to broadcast the sound of guffaws to everybody. So Foley is great fun. You should definitely do Foley.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the way that this came around is especially after playing Diablo 3. So it's just something. It's a game that I've had for a while. It turns out I didn't actually buy it. I've just got the starter. Need to buy it. But I'm running around. What did I say I was? I was a demon something. Demon Slayer.
I wasn't really listening.
No, me neither. But anyway, I was running around. I usually play as like an archer or a stealthy rogue type when it comes to RPGs, not first-person shooters where it's a stealthy mission with a rocket launcher. But that's a different story.
I've played RPGs with you. I've seen your stealth, Mister. Oops, I set Jan on fire again.
He's lit. What can I say? So yeah, I'm playing around, and the first thing I noticed is like the really satisfying sound of the gold when you collect the gold, and I'm like, that's really interesting. It's just a little ting. It actually sounds more like broken glass now I listen back to it with more analysis. And then I was playing around, and because of the archer thing, one of your special abilities that you can develop, I can only describe as a minigun. So there's me just fighting off the undead, and I just turn into Arnie from Predator or Terminator. Just sat here going, and it's actually the sound, the bright sparkles on the screen are.
We've talked about this before.
Yeah.
Sound design is such an overlooked part of, honestly, any digital media.
Yeah. Thanks, Melicon. Demon Hunter. There we go.
That's what we said.
I'm Buffy the Demon Slayer.
I haven't played Diablo 3 except for the beta when it was first released. And I played it for about an hour. I just thought, I'm just playing bubble wrap. Like, I'm just over this. But it's a really well-made game.
Yeah.
Conversely, I've been playing Wasteland 3, which I actually mentioned last week. And that's very well written. I actually had to start again because I decided to change operating systems. And it worked. And Steam handles the game just fine, but it didn't bring over my save files. So,
oops. So yes, you're now fully in Pop OS, aren't you?
I am fully Linuxed on both machines.
Which is brave.
Yeah, I mean, so the one that was slowing us down was DaVinci Resolve, which is the program we use for video editing. Sorry, throat sweet. So after last week's stream, like the day after, I told Mikey I'm going to try this. He's like, well, I guess you've got a week in case it goes wrong. I need to come around and help you restore Windows. Yep. So we tried it. And because we're using the studio version of Resolve on the free version, it'll save the codec we need. But because we're using Linux, we can't access a certain audio codec, which means we can't open MP4s. We can open them, we can't play the sound on them. So I checked out a script that could convert them, and they work fine. So all the old stuff can still be recorded. And the last two videos I've published have been on the Linux system, and it works great. Most of my Steam games work fine, except when I need to do certain things and need permissions, because my game drive is still the old format. So I'm getting a new hard drive tomorrow. So I can move all the stuff over onto an ext4 formatted drive, and then I can set permissions properly, and that'll be fine.
So I was really surprised. So two years ago or something like that, I'd moved over to Pop OS myself, and I was amazed with the speed increase when it comes to rendering in Blender. There's a genuine between 20 and 30% speed increase for rendering.
That does sound exactly like you.
Oh yeah, it does, doesn't it? I'm a stealthy character with a minigun.
I'm so stealthy. Mikey, where are you going? Shush.
That's 100% me. We should play more. Last year, or was it last year? We actually played a few games on streams, and we're analysing them as well as trying to play them.
There's some new Human Fall Flat levels I'd like to look at. We did play some Divinity Original Sin, but one of the guy we were playing with stopped playing, so it was like, do we wait for him? And then we waited like a month. Okay, let's do something else.
Were you forgetting something as big as Divinity Original Sin? If you don't watch it, if you don't play it for a week or two, where are we in the story? What are we doing?
How does this game work? That was a game where Mikey was a very sneaky rogue who would frequently have us massacring all the civilians, or I'd walk past Mikey as he came out of a shop, and I'd say, "Do they sell
Yeah.
any spells I can use?" And he says, "Well, they're all dead in there." What? Don't worry about it. And then he walks off. Like, that's Mr. Sneaky.
In my defense, and I didn't realize because I somehow have this amazing ability to be able to troll without even realizing it. My character, that is her storyline. She's this innocent person who's got a demon inside.
Who's making her kill people.
Yes.
Oh, caps lock.
It looks like we're fighting right now.
But yeah, it's a lot of fun. I really love the sound design and just the whole aesthetic of Diablo 4. When it came out, it felt like just left clicking thousands of times, and I just couldn't.
It took me a while, to get used to the control system, because it is just left and right click and the 1, 2, 3, 4 or a few keys on the keyboard. I spent ages not moving and going, why is WASD
I have 1, 2, 3, 4
working?
here. So.
Okay, so for you, it is all the mouse.
It's all the mouse. All the mouse, all the time.
So yeah. Anyway, back to Pop OS. So I was using it, and I was working on Unreal at the time, and I had gone away and used my laptop, and came back to use the computer. And the laptop's on Windows, and the desktop was on Linux. So I sit down, open up my scene to do this materials thing that I was working on. And it has tessellation, so where you displace the geometry and make it look more realistic without it actually having that extra geometry there. And it just wasn't working. It turned out after a whole day of investigation that the NVIDIA driver for Linux didn't support tessellation. And I was like, what? Really? And it was little things like that. And then when I came to editing, I was like, I couldn't get Resolve to work. And obviously in the next 2 years, it's really seems to flesh out.
Well, we've moved to the studio version, which makes a big difference with the Linux compatibility. So all of this, do we recommend everyone switch to Linux? Only if you want to, otherwise don't. If you're happy with Windows or you're happy with Mac, then stay with those. If you're not, move. I was unhappy with Windows. I saw Windows 11 coming over. I didn't really fancy it. I decided to use that as my jumping off point. But we're not going to be telling you have to switch to a certain operating system.
And the wonderful thing is Godot looks exactly the same whether you're in Linux. Blender looks exactly the same with whatever operating system you're on.
Blender opens faster, which is nice.
Yes, there is one thing with Blender, or there used to be. Again, I don't know, it might have moved on. But Alt in Linux is a key that's used a lot for system-level commands. So occasionally, if you've got something like Control-Shift-Alt and something, or Control-Alt something within Blender, it doesn't work as well. It's sometimes remapped to another key.
I mean, I haven't been playing with it much, but it seems to be working fine.
It's fantastic.
Yeah, the biggest bugs I've had have been to do with permissioning, and that's specifically because I'm using an NTFS drive, which is a Windows format, not a Linux format, and it doesn't have the same permissions that a Linux drive can, so it can cause problems. But new drive tomorrow.
Woo!
And of course, someone's coming around to check the electrics tomorrow, so who knows when I'll be able to install it.
So darting back to LMMS quickly. So the plan is, at the moment, it will be early access until the first 2 sections are out. My estimation for that is a couple of weeks. But we'll just give you updates as and when they come. In terms of me producing this week, I'm actually at a funeral on Thursday, so most of the end of the week is just going to be completely out of it. So I'll be doing some more work over the weekend and just kind of picking back up on that. But that's the plan with LMMS. We're going to get the course to at least 2 sections before it goes for everybody. If you've not got access to it at the moment and you think you should have, just give us a shout. It's the first one of the RPG series, so we'll find our way around. And I know there are a few people who use a different email address on Kickstarter as they do on our site. You're going to have to reach out to us if that's the case, because we can't match the 2 things up.
And Adele, my eyes are going. Adele Habert was saying, looking forward to the next course on that version. Yep. I'm planning on doing a course on Godot 4. I already have some ideas for it, including a name for it. I'm waiting till it's a bit more stable before I get too much in the weeds. But the idea is
Yeah.
once that gets into probably beta and feels stable enough, to start working on that course. This course, I don't believe we will kickstart. We will just put out there. Um, it would be nice to get the extra money from Kickstarter. Money is always lovely, but I feel like we've just run a Kickstarter to run a second one immediately afterwards. Feels a bit
Yeah, I get that.
cheap. Not cheap. The other one, greedy.
What are those?
Yeah. But yeah, we can look at some of the things that Godot 4 does again in a bit because we just had some people jump in. And you've also been very excited about a couple of Jawa who came to visit you.
Jawa?
Houdini!
Oh yeah, so there's been a sneak peek of Houdini 19 recently. Moving swiftly on, and I'm absolutely loving what it's showing. And I've been watching Houdini really closely since version 16, so only 3 years. I'm going to get into it one day, but it's a very node-based system, and with also geometry nodes coming. Well, it's in Blender 2.93, and they're changing it to fields in version 3. So, sort of all of this node-based procedural or parametric modeling is all coming together, and it's not great for certain things, but for other things like placement of geometry, rule sets. So simple things like, moss growing at a certain angle. If there's not enough place for it to grow,
I never
you can
took the
remove
course
it.
or even downloaded the program, but I remember when we were first looking at Houdini,
Yeah.
I saw that there was somebody who had a Udemy course on it where they were using Udemy to make procedural buildings, like a whole bunch of village buildings for an exterior scene.
Yes.
And it just looked very cool.
Yeah, the amount of proc gen that you can do in it is absolutely amazing. And some of the more recent things, they've got updated to their render and other things like that. Now, I'm not saying there are going to be any Houdini courses anytime soon, but it's very exciting to see what other tools go in. I know it's very common to be somewhat, I'm going to say close-minded. If you it must be Blender. And there's this other tool sitting just to the right of it that can do volumetrics so much better, so much quicker, that you can import it back into Blender and carry on. So it's more about there's tools out there that you can just dive into, come back again, and resume your work in Blender. So not to shunt and push those away.
And that's true with game engines too. I mean, Houdini is an interesting one. And there's a couple of things that slow us down with the idea of making courses. One is the skill ceiling. Like the amount of time we'd have to devote to getting the level of expertise is quite a lot. Like we need to get a few more courses out before we can even consider taking that much time off to study something that complicated.
Yeah, definitely.
Because it's a bit like Blender. There's so many things in Houdini.
Yep,
and
there
so
really
much
is.
to it that you really want to go into some depth before you start teaching it, because you otherwise you get like 6 weeks in and think, oh, there's actually a better way of doing that. The other thing is the licensing. Everything we've been teaching so far is free and open source. Yes, including Arda. It is free and open source, but it's not free as in money. But even then, like buying Arda or compiling it yourself is not the same as getting a Houdini license. Houdini does have a student license.
Yes.
In fact, that's quite limited what you can do with it.
It's limited in certain ways. It's limited in the way that I was like, oh, it's really good for volumetrics. You could do them in Houdini and export them to. No, you can't do that in the. I think it's called Houdini Indie, although no, Apprentice. Indie is the cheapest one. It's about $200-$300, something like that. I also. I mean, the best thing you can do if you're interested in that sort of thing is just type in Houdini 19 sneak peek. They've had their full presentation today. That's about 2 hours long. The sneak peek is about 11 minutes, and it gives you quite a bit of the information that's in there. Yeah, so it was actually Melicon. If you're still on, hi. We were talking about a canopy earlier, as in, canopy games. So canopy as in like a cockpit for a craft, spaceship or aircraft, something along those lines. Let me share my screen real quick, because we were talking about whether or not to use subdivision workflow or to make it in another way. So if I turn on my overlays here, you'll see the underlying geometry of this is really, really simple. In fact, it's only 5 faces. And when you do some face loops around this particular model, this is one of the things that we're talking about, that to get your edge flow right really does change the way that it works, essentially. Jan, can you see me, or are you behind on the stream? Do I need to push this?
I'm behind on the stream, but it's fine.
There we go. Now you can see what I'm doing. So if I do this face loop, we can see it's actually running round. It's going from the back here all the way around. And if this wasn't a mirrored object, it would actually loop the entire object. And so Melicon at the time, he was trying to not have it so square at the front here, and it was all about just manipulating the geometry. As you can see here, this is only 5 faces, and you get quite a nice shape just from those 5 faces. This is the power of subdivision workflow, but it can be a real pain in the backside if you don't approach it thinking about edge flow and loops around a model. But eventually what it ended up being, how do I erase this? Is it that? Nope. I don't know.
You should ask the Blender instructor.
I'm just going to remove that from the scene. There we go. Hey, Mag Racer 3.0, anybody?
Don't.
So these wings are almost exactly the same topology, the same mesh layout as the cockpit, and obviously I just stuck some sort of thruster in the back. And we won't look at the underside of the model because there's nothing really there.
He said looking at the underside of them.
This reminds me very much of, I think I talked about it a couple of weeks ago, F-19 stealth fighter from the late 80s, I think it was. It's kind of that shaped wing. But yeah, it's amazing what you can do with just a very, very low poly mesh. See, that's the mesh there. It's just got an extra loop running down it to give it this really nice crease.
Ridge, yeah.
Yeah. And that's really just
cool.
a Star Wars lightsaber in the back there, isn't it?
I mean, I do like the idea of returning to Mag Racer in Godot. Like, there's a lot of stuff we could do in there. But I also I'm aware that there's a bunch of content we need to make for other courses. Yeah. The Godot 4 course is going to need lots of things. There's an action RPG course. I don't know if you guys know we're working on that.
Oh, yeah, it's fantastic. Perhaps the Mag Racer can be a little... That one there can be a little, like, trinket that can
Mikey,
be
would you like to show off the loading bars? Because you haven't actually showed these. I am going to push these to a thing in the next couple of days. I want to solve the NPC bug. It's annoying me. And my nose is really itchy.
So the NPC bug's a weird one because it doesn't happen all the time.
I know why it's happening. It's because I've set the detection range too low because I was trying to make navigation work with procedural generation a couple of weeks back. And then I gave up on it. I forgot I'd done it. So what's happening is it's saying, if you're moving and you're close enough, stop an attack. But if you're already too close, don't.
That's fair enough. So it just doesn't attack. So which most of this is live for download and testing, isn't it?
Yeah, the loading bars aren't.
The loading bars.
The NPCs are now back in the dungeon. But let's take a look at the loading bars.
So procedural tests, do not bring these all up here unless you've got a beefy computer. It'll take
even if you've got a beefy computer, it's just going to take a while.
Yeah.
Like, it's not optimized. It's all very exploratory.
So let's do that. So here's a nice...
This will take a little bit, but let's
there we
take
go.
A look.
So this is the procedural dungeon. So Jan's been working on if you missed it last week, we had the procedural dungeon coming together. This is all put together on the fly.
Mm-hmm.
That's why it takes a few moments to load up.
And some of the techniques I'm doing to do that are very recursive, and that's what's slowing us. Like, there's a lot of ways to streamline that. But before I sit down and make a bunch of content, I want to nail down which version we approach.
Oh, definitely, yeah. I like this. I mean, this is probably not a design. This is one of the beautiful things about procedural generation. There's absolutely no way that I build something where you've got a corridor all the way through there, but it works.
I'm a few seconds behind you, so I don't know what you're talking about.
Aha. I should share my screen to you.
Hey, look at that.
Oh, double door.
Oh, I thought I got rid of those.
Nice. Found one.
I have gotten rid of the duplicate walls, and I thought the duplicate doors, but apparently not. Nailed it. Nailed
Ah,
it. Just
stop wrecking the place.
each bookshelf also spawns candles and then removes them if it doesn't need them, which is inefficient, but was a quick and dirty way of just getting a bunch of content I could play with.
Yeah. I don't know where I am now. So earlier on, it might be worthwhile
Just hit main menu.
There we go. I was struggling, and I was like, I can't press this button. I can't press this button. So width and height are the size of the grid, and
Yep.
then you've got a chance of rooms. So a corridor is a type of room, but this
No.
is the chance of a normal room with books.
A corridor is a corridor,
Corridor, yep.
but it'll make the map, and every time it places a tile, it'll default to corridor unless it rolls a number that says this. What should that number be? That's the slider.
Gotcha. Chance of junctions. Is that the doorways into a room?
We have a single path all the way through the maze, and then afterwards we're going through and we're adding additional paths. I'm calling those junctions or junctions. How many of those would you like? The default is 33% of the map.
Gotcha.
While you're here, you can also play the game, and we're loading things there.
Play game. Here we go.
No, there's actually not an infinite inertia table launch. It's passing on the mass of the player and the velocity, and imparting a impulse onto the table. But getting the mass of the table and the mass of the player just right and stopping it from keep adding it over time means it kind of looks a bit infinite. If it was the infinite one, it would just slam directly into the wall. Oh, you've had the Boyds.
I have. Right, Boyds. Anyway. Let's go down into the dungeon. So, loading screen here as well? Yeah.
Yeah, that's the idea. Is there's a loading screen going down, going up, and entering the procedural generation test.
Gotcha. Oh, this one is actually attacking. So yeah, you can see that the detection radius is rather low. Aha.
Yeah, I've managed to bug out the behavior tree. Like, I know why it's doing it, but I had other things to play with at the time.
So
but what I like is that we've got this very stylized look of this dungeon. But if I reuse those light settings in Godot 4, it feels very different.
I'm gonna see if I can buy this double sword. Don't mind me. Take one of these. Run. They're too scared to attack me.
They're just wondering why you're looting them.
I'm really looking forward to seeing this in Godot 4. Just the difference already is absolutely phenomenal.
I didn't bring in the shop assets into Godot 4 yet. I just brought in the standard pack we made. But yeah, it looks very different.
Oh, 67 gold. I'm so close to the 90 needed.
Do you know he has that sword?
Yep, I've checked. It's right there. Great sword. It's a great sword, apparently.
It's pretty great.
It's two-handed, so it's got the slam. That's the one. Ooh. Yeah, so there's not much new in the game itself. It's more exploration at the moment more than anything else.
Shall we show what these assets look like in Godot 4 again? Just compare them.
So are you going full screen, your side?
Yeah, I am.
Okay, I shall just bring this across. So for those who missed it a bit earlier.
Yep. One thing, by the way, I've noticed about Godot 4 is it remembers what seeds you had open. Okay, so...
Oh, nice.
These are the same torches with the same amount of light. I'm going to hide the direction in 3D. I'm going to change this color. get rid of the stars. So we have the same assets, the same light distance, the same colors, the same shadow colors, and this just feels very different. I mean, if I bring in, nope.
The
Throne
thrones.
2. Did I bring you in? No. Mesh instance. There we go. So if I bring in a throne back here a bit, and let's bring in.
Wow. Yeah. That's a completely different effect. And of course, this is one of the things we were either talking about this last week or the week before when we were talking about how materials have to be set up depending uniquely for each rendering environment. So you might have nailed all of these in Blender, and when you move them across into Godot with a different lighting engine, a different setup for its materials, suddenly it looks completely different.
I'm actually going to make a slight change with this because we only have one light source or one light color.
Yeah.
So just do you not save?
It might be the caching thing. Oh no.
So that's a bit much. That should do it.
That's really nice.
So let's go into camera. And let's just move the camera back. Like, this feels like a very...
Does this mean I can use the spooky music again?
Maybe. And bear in mind, we've just got an orange and a slightly different orange. I haven't loaded in the palette for this yet, so it's still very much of a muchness. But I'm going to run the game with the 30-second animation again. Just oh wait, I haven't put the sky in. Let's put the sky back in.
This is essentially an alpha test.
Nice.
See what I did there?
I do. New sky, and I need you. Sky. You should bring the stars. Boop. Don't know if you can see them, but there's some stars up there.
They're definitely splodges. By the time they've been through Discord compression and YouTube compression, I don't know how well it will look.
You'll also notice the materials haven't come through on the throne yet.
Yeah, that's so a light let's fix throne, isn't it?
That real quick. Throne to mesh. Okay. Are you now in there? Ooh. Some fun reflections going on.
Yeah, that's interesting, isn't it?
It's starting to crash. Let's take a look. One more time with some materials.
That's awesome.
Still very misty because we put the volumetric fog in.
Yeah, definitely.
But
I'm really glad that it hasn't crashed on us.
Like, I think the future's looking pretty good for Godot, to be quite honest.
Yeah, definitely.
This is slowing my machine down because I'm also streaming video at the same time on the other monitor, which my card doesn't like. Any second now, the light's going to come back, and there we go.
Nice.
Now, admittedly, I'm never going to use in the actual dungeon, but there's no reason why we can't have a day-night cycle in the overworld.
No, a day-night cycle. Maybe a bit slower than this. It might be a bit jarring.
Yeah, it won't be a 30-second day-night cycle, but, you know, pretty good.
We could put in
a bunch of other assets to play with, like...
We could put the ragdolling back in, and when it becomes nighttime, you suffer from narcolepsy and you just fall asleep.
I think we should file that under maybe.
Maybe not.
I think your idea has been taken on board, and we're going to throw it overboard the moment we leave.
I'm happy with that.
That is a Terry Pratchett line. And just one more, because I can. Banner. Sorry, I'm just playing at this point with the logo. We'll bring the banner logo in.
So this is also quite key if you already have a project in Godot 3 and your intention is to take it over into Godot 4, you can see that there are some snags that you're going to come across. Hopefully, by the time that the beta is out, we'll see a lot of these small irritating bugs be ironed out. I mean, that's just part of the process.
Yeah, and I'd love to projectors on the lights working.
Yeah,
but we'll see how you look. I think I've put the banner in the wrong place. I have.
it's there.
Bad monkey.
Yeah, there on the side would look quite good. There we go. Perfect.
Very professional. Doom. Boom, 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 boom. Also, with the bright sky and the volumetrics and everything else, doesn't it feel like a puzzle game? Like a 3D puzzle game where you have to wander around putting portals everywhere?
Not portals, but it reminds me a bit, with the pastel colours there, it reminds me a bit of The Witness.
Witness or the Talus Principle, something like that. Like, I feel like I should be going around looking, trying to figure them out. Whereas this just, well, not this has come back, but the day-night, the night cycle just makes me feel like I'm underground looking for a kicking, if I may use a Scottish expression.
I didn't know that was a dialect.
Just to make Daz happy. There you go.
Awesome.
So that's a very quick look into how these assets look with the new rendering engine.
Yes.
Stuff. It's a really cool effect. There's things you can play with, and it's not entirely there yet.
No, not yet. We're getting there, though. It's
getting very close. I mean, they are talking about alpha very soon. So, and hopefully from alpha to beta. What are you doing?
I'm positioning
What's happening
again. I don't know. I don't even know why I'm not central anymore.
Well, you're not that important.
No. We should do that thing one day where you pass something between screens. Here you go. Yeah, it's just the other side of this wall in reality.
Yep.
And down the road, turn left.
Quite a distance. Is it turn left?
At some point. I mean, it depends if you're walking backwards or not. It's definitely turn left out of the front of my house.
Why do you keep making me be the grown-up? I don't want to be the grown-up.
I don't want to be the grown-up.
So yeah, we're really excited about the stuff that's coming out.
Yeah.
The new Lemons course is on track, and I'm no doubt that soon you guys will be making awesome stuff. We have a bunch of plans for the Blender assets and the Blender courses, and the concept art and UI courses.
Oh, yes. So the concept art, Paul is beavering away in the background. I will have more news on that soon. We're going through the prototyping stage for it at the moment. So hopefully in the next couple of weeks, we'll have something there to show you guys, which should be pretty awesome.
So we're coming up to... So do you guys have any thoughts,
Yeah,
questions, concerns,
we're here to answer them.
interpretive dances, battle yodels?
Yodel. I respect your ears, so I won't do any more.
Do you? I've never known you respect them before.
I'm learning slowly.
The battle yodel is also a Terry Pratchett reference, if I recall.
Learn something new every day. I'm just going to move me around.
Dwarfish battle yodel is Nino, Nino, Nino.
What?
Battle Yodas are fun too. Yeah.
Battle Yodas. To go with your Jawas.
Yep. How is BCS coming along?
It's coming along really well. So the Blender Creative Suite, great question, by the way. I've got it now on a mental list to talk about it. So Blender Creative Suite, the beginning modeling section is still ongoing. The first section of that is complete. Working on the second section of it at the moment. There'll be 3 sections in total in that first course, and then we'll be getting on to texturing and materials after that. Also, although not fully confirmed, there is a change, as mentioned earlier, there's a change to the geometry node, with the way they're going from how it is currently to using fields. And I've been speaking with Erin about doing a course specifically. So there's a 2.93 version and a 3 version. And I'll have more news on that in the coming weeks as well.
Pakosh says, I have a question. When do you see baking in Blender fitting in this timetable?
That is a great question. So baking, it will be part of the texture stuff. So it will come up after UV unwrapping. So the idea being, of course, when we get to UV unwrapping, you'll be supplied with models. Obviously, you can practice on your own as well, but you'll be supplied with models to play with, which I think is critical because my previous courses have kind of been right in this section where we're going to learn about texturing. We're also going to start off by modeling, and so it kind of gets a bit woolly and unfocused. So we'll start off with the default cube. Yep. We won't be deleting the default cube. We'll be unwrapping it and wrapping it.
You've got to delete it and then put a new one in. Pakosh says, to Jan, how are you finding the procedural generation algorithms? I'm just opening them up, and there they are in my script. They're fine. I like procedural generation algorithms. It's one of those cases where you get 2 things. One, you get the angry genie thing, which is you get exactly what you asked for and not what you wanted. That happens a lot.
Yeah.
2, it is very, very easy when you're putting in little rules and things to suddenly look back on your code and realize, oh, I've put like 200 lines in a function. Like, stop, break it down, make it clean,
Stop.
No.
So I remember when I was, I set myself a small challenge to make a Mayan pyramid only using Python code. So I basically stacked a ton of cubes on top of one another, and I'm sure you've come across this where you just get the order slightly wrong, and your thing that you're creating is no longer slightly wrong; it's just not recognizable.
I did the brilliant idea of trying to solve the walls issue, where each room was generating its own walls, which meant if you had 2 rooms next to each other, you'd have 2 walls on top of each other, which is not only ugly, it's twice as much geometry as you need. Like, that's ridiculous. So I moved the walls I created an array called walls, and it was just going to list all the wall positions that had already been filled. And then I put the code in. If these coordinates are in walls, then do this. If they're not in this, and it didn't work, did nothing. And I remembered, it's not called walls; it's called walls list. That's what I get for coding before I've had enough coffee.
More coffee.
Are these coordinates in the node called walls? No. Okay.
Angry Genie has replied.
Yes, they are. So there's a lot of things like that, but it is awesome putting together a few rules and just seeing how it becomes a living world. I mean, even this with a very simple, 4 or 5 different room types, each with very slight variations in the rooms. It just feels very.
It genuinely adds to the replayability of the level.
It can do. Again, though, I do recommend this book. This book is awesome.
Procedural generation in game design.
I actually went and got an actual book rather than Kindling it or Audibling it. But yeah, it's very cool. It doesn't give you recipes. It doesn't tell you how to code them. It talks about the ideas and theories.
Sorry, you cut out then? Talks about the ideas and theories.
Theories and pitfalls.
And pitfalls, yeah.
I mean, the very first line in the book is, here. Only dweebs and suckers read books online. What? No, that's not. It's not what it says. Procedural generation is a powerful tool and a great way to ruin your game design. Which I just love. It's a great line.
Yes, with great power comes great responsibility.
Yeah. So far, I'm loving the book. I mean, I don't have as much time to read it as I'd like, and my eyes aren't as good as they used to be. I have to make an appointment and go to an ophthalmologist and get that fixed because I haven't had my glasses updated in 8 years. But I don't have a bicycle or a car, so I have to wait until I'm like, Mikey!
Yes, Jan. Where are we going?
Exactly.
Lunch and an eye check. Why not?
How many lights can you use in Godot 4 in one room?
So, Jan, load up Godot 4 and just keep adding lights.
I have no idea. But if it's anything like Godot 3.3, they put in a variable to change that. We do have a lot of lights. What we do is each light has an area, and that area is set to, I think, 30 or 50 meters. And if the player is outside of that area, the light just it switches off.
Which makes sense. The only time you really see that effect is if the game generates a really long corridor.
One thing Godot 4 does have, and 3.4 will have, is occlusion. And I haven't played with it yet. I don't know how well it's going to work with the procedural generation I'm using. It may be easy, it may be really difficult.
Yeah.
But that's going to make a huge difference as well, because if we're not actually rendering the light there or not.
Yeah, if it's frustum based coloring, why not culling? Then it will only be whatever. If the camera can't see it, it will be culled from the scene.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to the dynamic loading. It'll bring a mass. I mean, the difference is going to make it fun, which I think we're going to cap at 60 frames a second. Does Godot 4 beta have LOD? I know beta was coming. I know it was coming in Godot 4. I actually don't know. Let's take a look.
Yes. I mean, another thing to bear in mind.
It has LOD sliders.
It does. You have to implement them yourselves, though.
No, the tooltip just says this doesn't do anything, which I think is amazing. Let's take a look. I'm going to share my screen.
Okay, I will push buttons.
It's gone a journey. Would they be under camera? Almost certainly not. Right, they'll be under the mesh.
I need to push a button. Hold on. There we go. So yeah, LODs are a really weird one. Some game engines will develop them for you and actually make different ones.
Visibility range.
Oh, that's useful. I mean, for the game that we're creating, LODs are going to be not really applicable. I mean, I suppose we could have billboarded trees in the far distance in the overworld.
Okay, so let's put you at 2 meters.
Oh.
This is not LOD, but let's put you at 10 meters. Okay, so this is the new dithering. Let's put you at 8 meters. And that completely changes it. Okay.
Nice.
And let's say the minimum is 1 meter. Yeah.
I like it.
Okay, so that's not LOD, but it's fun.
No.
Global illumination mode disabled. Baked. Dynamic. Don't know. Geometry. LOD bias.
What does the tooltip say?
LOD bias.
So that might mean they're going
to implement it. This is my favorite bit of looking at this in alpha. Let's look at the documentation. Oh, nope. That's wrong. Come back. LOD bias. Where are you? A lot of these just say, this isn't here yet. Oh, it'll be on the geometry mode.
Oh, there was a great one earlier. We looked up the help documentation for it. It just said, this hasn't been created yet. Would you like to add to the documentation?
Yep.
Oh, here we go. Please help us by contributing one.
I'm in geometry. Yeah, there's no tooltips for it yet. But that's to be expected.
That'll be part of...
I believe it's in. I haven't played with it. I haven't explored it. There's no documentation that I know of yet. So
yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah, the occlusion makes a huge difference because right now, especially if you make a large dungeon, like I've allowed you to make a 20 by 20 grid, which is absurd. Like
Yeah.
400 room dungeon is silly, but with no occlusion and even with the torches going on and off, the amount of objects I'm creating as these rooms,
Yeah.
it's just nuts. There's some things we're gonna do, like right now, the bookshelves are very inefficient. So instead of having a whole bunch of books on the shelf, we're going to make bookshelf stack, like
Yeah.
a mesh that is just that and has no backer underneath.
It's basically just a way of optimizing your assets. We realize at this point, having, I don't know how many books there are on a shelf, a lot. That's a lot of game objects that don't need to be in the game. It could be
Yeah, they don't need
one
to be
mesh.
loaded in, and
Yeah.
we don't need to be drawing that many vertices. Like cut that down basically. And there's a lot of like for I in child do this, and that's just not that efficient. There's some things I've done to speed it up, but I was still very much looking at what's the technique and the feel rather than the solution.
Yeah, I mean, essentially, it's a manual book stacking algorithm,
Mhm.
which isn't
Well,
really
no, the
necessary.
bookshelf
We could create a few
I
variations.
simplified by having pre-made ones and just
Mm.
pick one of these 5 pre-made ones on the shelf. So that sped it up dramatically. But there's plenty of other things I'm not doing now. The potential for randomly generated. Yes, I do want to do that too. I stopped playing with mobs in the current version because getting navigation to work was a pain. I started looking at creating a star. Like there's an A star node you can access only in code, not in the scene. Interesting. And then I placed a whole bunch of physical meshes and said, okay, wherever there's a mesh, make that a node. And then you would have to connect that to all neighboring points and then do that with doorway. I was like, you know what? This is all going to change in God of 4 anyway. This right now.
Yeah.
Like, let's wait till God of 4 is a bit more stable and then play with the navigation server.
Yeah, Godot 4's navigation server is going to fundamentally change how we approach navigation for the AI anyway.
Fantastic, Castro. Great to have you with us. Yeah, I mean, so it's all doable. It was just like I was spending 2 days just thinking, okay, how would I set the navigation with a procedural dungeon,
Yeah.
where it's not trivial to line up navigation meshes and just
So you cut
they
out
have to
then
be
again.
it's not trivial to line up your navigation meshes and have them perfectly aligned because they have to be perfectly aligned.
Yeah.
So that's not an ideal thing, but God of 4 is going to have, well, the beta has a navigation server, which works very different. So I need to play with that and see how that works. It may be that A star ends up being what we do anyway, but whatever we use, we'll have to make sure that we're only applying that navigation when we need to, because it does get very costly when you have a whole bunch of skeletons running around.
You could have them play follow the leader as well.
Yep. Well,
Loads
as
of
Castro
different
is
implementations.
seeing, would you like to show that video one more time of our God of 4 test?
Yeah. Scroll down here and press that. Then people can see that as I move things around.
Yeah, the shaders are a lot of fun. Although I have trouble understanding how shaders work. The shader we have is just a very simple.
Yeah. It's not... Oh, I can't get this window snapping to work.
It looks good for me. So these are our assets in Godot 4 in the current nightly build. And I just like how it looks. It's very atmospheric. I do want to put in some different colored lights, but...
There we go. So yeah, I really like how it's changed the feel of the world, and it's just one small scene, which is, that in itself is incredible. That feel, and we may have to look at some of our assets and go, well, with different lighting, do we color them in slightly differently? If we're capable of having these really dark areas, perhaps we do make our assets more vibrant so they are more visible. So lots of options.
Zach, you could also play with the shader nodes. You can make a visual shader.
Yeah. that's the thing, though. There's so many, literally so many possibilities with this,
Yep.
and Godot 4 is really giving us a ton of options that we
So
didn't.
I'm going to be
didn't
playing
have
with that over the
before.
next few days as we're getting close to alpha. Quick reminder: alpha is not the same as stable. I'm not going to consider this stable until we're probably in beta, like not at beta launch, but like when they keep coming out, we're not getting like lots of people reporting crashes, because there's just no point recording courses when the whole thing's got to be rewritten anyway.
No, we will pop out occasional YouTube videos with findings and things like that. But when it comes to the course, we want to make sure it's rock solid for you as much as us.
Yep.
I remember when 2.8 came out, literally where the Eevee render engine was completely new to Blender, and I tried to create a course with that, and it took many edits to fix stuff and many re-records.
I remember when Godot 3.1 came out and I started recording videos during the beta, and then it went live and they changed the interface. I had to go back and redo them all.
These sort of things can happen, and it's just a guessing game at that point.
But yeah, that's a little over an hour.
It is.
So unless anyone has any further questions or comments, etc., I'm going to play with my toucan.
This is a family channel. And here we see the young Jan playing with his toucan.
Have you seen James Veitch's?
Yes. Yes,
yep.
I have. It's blooming marvelous.
Yeah, and I'm also looking forward to making the complete Godot 4 course. Not the name I'm using. Because I think there's a lot of scope with this engine, and just getting people up to speed so they can make some awesome stuff just sounds like a lot of fun.
And it'd be also very good to have some more 2D content as well for the last.
There's a lot of cool stuff coming with 2D as well.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, I think that's probably a good place to do. Oh, are the courses in the LMMS format? And not just how-tos. I'm not sure I understand the question, Foreigner. Oh, I'm using the whiteboard. Actually, I'm not using the whiteboard because I'm now on Linux and the software is different. What I've got... Let me just bring up my files.
He's got a...
Wait. I've got to share my screen in a minute. Just got to open Lorien.
To answer the question there, I think that's just going off of what we were talking about earlier. No, there will be an LMMS course. In fact, it's already there. So you have the Godot Action RPG, which is the placeholder for any courses that fit under that. So you will find in that there is the LMMS course at the moment. There should be more videos being added to it. My speech. Added to it tomorrow. When my editor is here doing some editing.
No, that's not an exclamation mark. That's an exclamation mark.
Are you sharing your screen?
I am.
Okay. Bear with me a moment. I need to move you around. Lots of sharing screens today. And main screen. There you go.
Yep. I found this on... I was looking for whiteboard things for Linux because I can't use the Microsoft one for obvious reasons. This was written in Godot. It made me very happy.
It's a Godot blackboard. Also, this is far more friendly on people's eyes than a whiteboard.
Also, this is really hard to do on a mouse because my tablet is set up for the other. My tablet is set up for the other monitor, so I can't actually pen over here very easily. So I'm doing this on my mouse. It's not looking good.
No, honestly, for a mouse drawing, that is pretty good.
Let's try one more with feeling.
Oh, I've played this. A giraffe. A crocodile. A zombie crocodile. It's Mike.
Okay, what video game is this, everyone? It's Ark. There's a dinosaur and there's a grumpy Mikey. It's Ark.
This is my training of a dinosaur, yeah. Yeah, and why does this dinosaur take 2 days to train? Do I literally have to stand next to it for 2 days? Yep.
I mean, that I didn't set those server settings up. Considering switching to Linux for my next machine, my machine's pretty solid. It's not top of the range. And honestly, it was just with Windows 11 coming and me not really enjoying my time with Windows over the past couple of years, it felt like time for me to jump. But again, if you guys don't want to do Linux, don't do Linux.
It comes with its fun and games. In fact, I believe Linus Tech Tips, Linus and I forget his name, Luke, are doing a three-part series on switching over to Linux to do their daily driver. But I think that's going to be mainly gamer focused rather than productivity. But your system specs, I believe, are a Core i5, 6th generation, a GTX 1060, and 16 gigs of RAM.
Yep, well done. They're not formatting my drive to NTFS to keep all my files has caused problems. And Pulse Audio. Eventually, so once you're at a certain technical level, switching over to Linux is actually not that difficult because you see the problem and you see, oh, this is a permission issue. Like, I know where to look for these logs. That's what that's saying. Why isn't that? Oh, it doesn't like this kind of drive. Or Pulse Audio is like, someone would have solved this. How do I set my default at boot? Done. But 4 years ago, that was a real hassle.
Yeah. 2 years ago, it was still problematic. As I found out.
Listen, that was a legit dinosaur.
It's my skiing.
So when I used to teach English to kids in China, I wish I would do online. I was living and working in New Jersey, and I mentioned to some students that I teach kids in China. And one of them went, "Well, online?" Like, no, I commute. So yeah, I would use my tablet to draw with the students, so I keep them involved. And when they're trying to learn new words, and one day I used the word penguin, and one of the students, 16-year-old girl, went, "What's a penguin?" So I drew one, and she went, "That's a chicken." I went, "No, this is a chicken." And I deliberately drew the exact same thing, but with a white thing. And she went, "That's two chickens. You are a bad teacher."
Oh, perfect. Yeah, I think you should do the next art course.
I mean, the tablet's fun, but I will definitely be using the tablet because even when I was teaching college in the States, I would use the whiteboard concept. Silly little doodles to explain complex concepts. It's a good way of teaching. Like, there are better coders out there than me, but I will go to the wall over my pedagogy. Mikey's laughing because we know somebody who cannot say the word pedagogy.
Which way is he? It's you tonight.
It is me tonight. Pedagogy. There we go. I got there.
Yes, I have heard, by the way, that if you've got a AMD card, that Linux tends to be a bit easier to manage because of the drivers are open source, aren't they? So
the current NVIDIA ones are pretty good. I haven't had any problems with them yet. Like, NVIDIA have changed their tune over the past 4 years ago. I tried this. It was just not. It was a hassle. Nothing worked.
Yeah.
I think we should call it.
Yes, I do as well. Thank you, everybody, for joining us this evening. Stop waggling that in my face. It's going to take me a while because I don't know where I've put where I've put stuff. So, yep, here we go. It's over there. Cool. Right. I'm ready for the sign off, Jan.
Yes. Thanks, everybody. Thank you for your amazing support, and we appreciate you all. And we can't wait to see what you guys make from our stuff.
Yep.
And we're going to keep sharing what we're doing.
Yep, we'll be back here same time next week. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye. Press it.
No.
Press it. Press it.